In this video we'll be looking at sketching linear graphs. Linear equations have the general form of y equals mx plus c, where m, the pronumeral here, represents the gradient of the line, and c, which is the pronumeral here, represents the y-intercept of the line. While it's convention to write a linear equation in the form y equals mx plus c, there are many different ways to represent a linear equation. Some of these examples include y equals 2x plus 6, 3x plus 5y equals 15, 3y minus x plus 6 equals 0, and x equals negative y plus 3. So they're just a few different ways that lines can be represented. It's important to note that when a linear equation is not in the form y equals mx plus c, you cannot easily determine the gradient and y-intercept of the line. To sketch linear graphs, the first thing you need to do is determine the x-intercepts. And to do that, we let y equals 0 and solve for x. Next, you need to determine what the y-intercept is. And to do that, you let x equal 0 and solve for y. Then you should plot the x and y intercepts, labeling them with their coordinates, and you should join the x and y intercepts with a straight line, and you should use a ruler to make this as accurate as possible. Here it's important to note that if the axes have not been labelled, then you must label them with the correct variables, so generally that would be x and y. Next we're going to look at sketching the graph of y equals 2x plus 6 on the set of axes provided, and we need to remember to clearly label any axial intercepts with their coordinates. So the first thing we're going to do is determine the y-intercept of the graph. So the y-intercept is found by letting x equal 0. So when we do that, we have y is equal to 2 times 0 plus 6. And now 2 times 0 is just 0. So we find that y is equal to 6. Therefore, the coordinate is 0 for x, 6 for y. So that will go on our graph. Next, we need to determine the x-intercept. And to do that, we let y equal 0 and solve for x. So here we will have 0 is equal to 2x plus 6. Next we'll subtract 6 from both sides. So we find that we have negative 6 is equal to 2x. And now to get x by itself we're going to divide by 2, and whatever we do to one side we need to do to the other. So we find that x is equal to negative 3. Therefore on the graph we have a coordinate of negative 3, 0. The next thing we do is we plot these points on the graph. So 0, 6 has 0 along the x-axis and 6 on the y, so I'm going to put it somewhere there. And because there's not a scale, I just put it in the best place I can. And then x is negative 3 when y is 0 is a coordinate that's approximately here. So we label those points. So this was 0, 6 and negative 3, 0. And now as best you can, you draw a straight line through this. So the best thing for you to do is use a ruler. So there's the line y equals 2x plus 6. On this slide I've just got a computer to generate a bit better of a line for me. So that's how it should look when you sketch it. In the next example we'll be looking at sketching 3x plus 5y equals 15. Once again we need to label all the key features with coordinates. So we'll go through the same process. So the first thing we want to do is find the y-intercept, which occurs when x is equal to 0. So doing that, we'll have 3 times 0 plus 5y is equal to 15. So 3 times 0 is 0, so that cancels. And we're left with 5y is equal to 15. To get y by itself, we divide both sides by 5. And we find that y is equal to 3. So that gives us the point x is 0, y is 3 on the graph. Next we want to find the x-intercept when y is equal to 0. So now we have 3x plus 5 times 0 is equal to 15. 5 times 0 is just 0, so it cancels. And we have 3x is equal to 15. So to get x by itself, we divide both sides by 3. And we find that x is equal to 5. Therefore, on the graph, we have the coordinate point x is 5, y is 0. So 5, 0 is somewhere here, and 0, 3 is somewhere here. The next thing we do is we draw a straight line between those 2 points using a ruler. So there is the line, 3x plus 5y equals 15. On this slide, I've just got a computer to generate that so you can see what it looks like, and we have all the same information labeled on that graph. So after this video, you should be able to determine the x and y intercepts of a linear graph. You should be able to plot the x and y intercepts and join them to sketch a linear graph. And finally, you should be able to correctly label key features of linear graphs with their coordinates.